Good afternoon and welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. We got Justin Wells. We got Coach Dub. We're here for recruiting intel like we always do on Tuesday afternoon. A lot of great recruiting topics to discuss this week as we are in Red River Shootout Week. But make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't yet, head to InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code IT1 to get yourself 2 months of access for just $1. If you sign up today, I just had to look at my calendar real quick. I think you make it all the way to the SEC championship game.
Whoa!
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're climbing that ladder. We're jumping off Jeff Hardy style, but not till December. So use that promo code IT1. Get yourself 2 months of access for just $1. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the familiar faces that are over on the Oklahoma sideline, guys that Texas pursued. Justin, you wrote about this the other day. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the new targets, new-ish targets that are popping up. Some guys in the 2025 class who Kenny Baker is keeping an eye on, especially as it pertains to defensive tackle. And, of course, we will take your questions. So before we go into the guys wearing crimson and cream, who Steve Sarkisian and maybe even Tom Herman wanted to wear burnt orange, this is a really good question from John A. How does the Jackson Arnold situation affect Oklahoma's quarterback recruiting? Can't look good for elite quarterbacks, no development, no line, no receivers, with the caveat of injuries. Justin, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's not going to really affect Oklahoma's quarterback recruiting. This is isolated, at least in this recruitment. Five-star quarterbacks will pay attention to this kind of stuff, no question. They're looking at this stuff, but they're also going to look at it and go, Oklahoma doesn't have an offensive line. They did nothing, which could have affected. Their receivers have been dinged up horribly. They're playing a true freshman at tailback. And so you have to think about the circumstances sometimes. And so here's the truth. Jackson Arnold could portal to another team next spring and be a great quarterback next year. Like, he's got those tools. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does that. What it does is it doesn't hurt you player to player. It may look negative. It gives other schools that are recruiting against you a little bit of ammunition. Hey, look at what they did with Homeboy. They gave up on him in two weeks. They had already put him on the bench. And so it really goes down to every single recruitment. Each one is different in their own way. They're still going to be able to, if Oklahoma wins, they're still going to get a five-star quarterback or an elite quarterback, high four-star, somebody that fits really well. But, the Jackson Arnold one, it's just an isolated thing. This happens at every single college in America. They bring in a highly rated guy, doesn't work out, then move on to the next one. It doesn't make the, what's this, the third OC Venables has had, or second OC Venables has had? Could be third.
Third likely on the way.
Yeah. Right, third could be on the way. That would have more of an effect with this Jackson Arnold stuff than would be being able to recruit a kid, because you can sell a kid on, look, we need you. We didn't have it before. We need you to come in and be that guy. We'll play you early. You saw we gave this guy a chance early. We gave Mikey Hawkins a chance early. Actually, you could spin this to where it would actually help you in recruiting. And that's the funniness about recruiting as a whole.
Yeah. To that point, though, Charlie, with a true freshman quarterback playing, that's probably not going to entice an elite quarterback, or it could, to come to Norman right away. But with the struggles that offense has had, and as we well know from covering the Fasusi recruitment, it does entice offensive linemen to want to go play real quick in Norman.
Yeah, definitely. Like, offensive linemen who want to play early, they're going to look at the depth chart and look at the current state of the teams. Like, I can go in and contribute right away and play. Same thing with their freshman quarterback. Okay, this freshman guy, he's in there. Mikey Hawkins is in there. What if he doesn't do well? Now, I got a chance to go compete against him and take his spot. So it really just depends. I think for the most part, they're probably looking at the offensive scheme. right? They want to know, is that OC still going to be there, right? Can I play in this system, or when I get there, is it still going to have the same woes and struggles, no matter the players? Is it the players? Is it the coach? So, I mean, kids is looking for opportunity to play early. The earlier you can play, if you don't like it, if you got early playing time, I can always hit the portal. Now I got great film as a freshman. So opportunity outweighs everything, in my opinion.
And also with Mikey, like a 5-star quarterback isn't going to be scared off by Mikey Hawkins. Nothing against him. I think he's a great young athlete and good for their system. That's not going to scare him off. You bring in year after year 5-star quarterbacks and it starts stacking the room, that might be a little bit of scarce. But if you're thinking, well, that's a freshman playing, you know what they're telling them? Why don't you beat that freshman? Why don't you beat that guy that we threw into the class last year? And so I think I don't think an elite quarterback would look at the Hawkins situation right now and think, oh, I got to stay away. But just because Mikey Hawkins is playing, they may do it because, like Coach said, the scheme, the OC, the injuries, all of the above.
Yeah.
To that point, why do you think Cam Rising and Casey Thompson both signed in Texas 2018 class? Because they looked at the rotating door, the rotating, game of musical chairs that was Sam Ehlinger and Shane Buechele, and thought there's no solid leader here. I think a lot of Texas fans and probably Tom Herman himself had a notion that Sam was going to take that job. But at the same time, like if you're Cam Rising, oh man, still in college. If you are Casey Thompson, also still in college, you look at that situation, you're like, maybe I can fit myself in there. And so without a firm guy at quarterback, that allows you to sell opportunity on the trail.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, and Charlie, I'm curious about this, maybe from your perspective. In college, it may not matter a ton, but the type of scheme that Seth Littrell is trying to run.
Right.
There are some times where college or prospective college quarterbacks aren't interested in that scheme because it doesn't translate to the NFL. Is that something you've kind of noticed when, tracking? And it's been a while, basically, since Art started that offense. But is that something you've noticed? Because I feel like we can look at Dillon Gabriel and see, hey, yeah, you don't have the measurements. That guy has stats out, all the way to Hawaii and back.
Yeah, he does.
But he's still playing in college instead of playing in the NFL. Is that scheme something that may limit quarterbacks or kind of hamper OU's efforts to get quarterbacks because it's not very preparation centric?
I like to say this. I'm not even sure what scheme they're running at this point, but
thank you.
But if they're running Art's system, I mean, every kid wants to throw for yards. I mean, you look at some Baylor quarterbacks got drafted out of this scheme. Nobody can run the offense like Art did. I don't care what they do, try to duplicate it. Nobody's Art Brown.
Not even his son, which TCU is
exactly. And so it's hard to duplicate. We've seen multiple people try to do it, and it just not the same success. So, but people can look at quarterbacks and see their measurables, see their arm strength, the throws they make. That can outweigh a whole bunch of things outside the scheme because NFL is a copycat league too, and they're doing a bunch of college stuff in the NFL now for a lot of quarterbacks so that they can develop and get acclimated a lot quicker. So it really just depends on the scheme. Kids want to throw for a lot of yards, and I don't think it hurts them as much as it would maybe receivers who take plays off because if they're not getting the ball, they're not really running a route.
Who goes and stops.
That's it.
They're not teaching them how to play quarterback. They're teaching them how to make one read.
And you look at
deep
the game, though, it's a lot of it. It's a lot of one-read quarterback throughout college football, no matter the scheme, right? So really, I don't think it hurts so much, but they just don't. I don't know what scheme they're actually running. That may hurt more than anything else.
That's
I don't
the
think
thing.
they know either.
Seth Littrell is an air raid guy, and he's running the Briles scheme. And Joe John Finley, I think, at best, in the course of his career, has kind of been like the second or third guy. And we're going to go deep into scheme and stuff later this week. We're going to try to get this back to recruiting, but that does matter. You look at what Steve Sarkisian is doing at quarterback. It's a pro-style scheme. And even if he does some half-field read stuff, it still reads that you're going to make at the pro level, going back to front or deep to short. There's still pro-level stuff, even if it is simplified at a college level. And that's something that Briles scheme.
And if you can't make those reads, you don't play.
Exactly. exactly.
Yeah.
We'll go through a couple
That's a good
questions.
question, John. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a fun way to open up discussion. Justin, gonna go to this one, putting you on the spot from our guy Quentin. Does Texas have any silent commits? Over under 1.5? Take this where you want to take it to.
Yeah, let's just have some fun with it, guys. It's Tuesday. Let's have some fun with it. I like how do we have any silence and then the over and under number. So he's already assuming I'm going to say yes. There's an assumption in that question, and that okay, since there is the number over under 1.5. My answer is sure.
Good way to put it.
There's some silent commits. Absolutely. And if I were going to take an over and under, I'd probably go maybe over. But my answer is going to remain the same until those guys go public. Sure. Understand this too. The silent commit in 2024 is not the same silent commit that we loved for Mac Brown in the 2000s, that we followed with Pete Carroll in 2000s and Urban Meyer and then Bob Stoops and all those guys. It's not the same. Silent commits are not the same. Honestly, I think college coaches hate them, to be complete, unless you're just like an elite of an elite and they just want to make sure they did their job on that particular recruiting trip and made you happy. Like, silent commits, guys, be careful with those because those, and I don't think Sark's a big silent commit taker either. He's a get on the pot, either, you know what I mean? Get in, or get out kind of deal. And so, but to answer your question, sure, over.
Silent commits don't last.
They get louder.
Who remembers Jahari Rogers? We wrote.
Isn't that the kid that went to Florida?
He went to Florida. I think
then he went somewhere else.
I think he might be in the portal right now or planning the portal.
He was good in high school.
That commit story and commitment video collected a lot of dust. So silent commits are worth as much as they are to schools.
They used to be, before the social media era, silent commits were like the buzzword to get you to click on a link. That was the buzzword to get you interested in recruiting that day. Oh, I'm hearing about a site, But now, with as much information and many platforms as you had to put out as much as you want, the silent commit is it's a dying thing.
Artistically incredible. I'm going to get to that question in just a second. Before we get there, though, got to give some love to our sponsor. Today's sponsor would be, if I can find the right thing to click on, there we go, Game Time. Use the Game Time app if you're looking to get tickets to any big Texas game, if you are looking to go to a big MLB game with the playoffs ongoing, NHL, NBA, NFL, all in full swing. October may be one of the best sports months of the year, and the place to go to get tickets is gametime.co or the Game Time app. Use the promo code ON3. You get a full all-in price upon checkout. You get to see where your tickets are, and I was in the view that your tickets have. I was just checking out the Cotton Bowl. And hey, I know what face value is, and you can still get into a game between two top 20 teams featuring the number one team in the country for a great price. So, all-in pricing, seat views, lowest price guarantee, or else Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And, of course, you also get Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create an account, use code ON3 for $20 off. Download Game Time today and go make your way to the game. I don't think anybody will want to miss it if you are able to do it.
You can sleep in this year.
Yeah, like Michael Taft did. Hey, when I was in school, the $100 handshake was still a thing, and I know they scan tickets now.
It was $20 back when I was there. The $20 would get you right through that slip, through that little deal.
And the funny
inflation.
The thing was, if I remember right, it's all like ROTC kids who are watching the gate. So they're like high schoolers and they're going to be serving our country, but they're there just to enjoy it as much as we are. So always an entertaining crowd. Artistically incredible. Wanted to get to this. Will Texas go after the Alabama defensive tackle that entered the defensive portal entered the portal yesterday? I don't know. So here's the thing. The portal window is when you enter, because if you go in before it, unless you're a grad transfer, you're not going to be immediately eligible. Right. So in the case of this guy and anybody else basically that you're hearing about, they're declaring they're going to go into the portal, and most likely they are. They don't have to. They're probably not there yet. And guys like Inside Texas, we will have that on lock. If not, Pete Nakos at On3 will have that on lock. Like, you will know from us, from him, when those guys get into the portal. Right now, all he said is that he's going to do it. That could definitely change. But Justin, I feel like in addition to taking a big defensive tackle class, they're still going to try to look for guys maybe like him in the portal.
There absolutely will. He would have gotten a strong look if this was last year at this time. He would have gotten a really strong look. Yeah. Look, he's a big time prospect. I think he was a 5-star at one time. But I think Texas is going to kick tires on a lot of these guys, the BPAs, the best player available, especially at D-line, because they are bringing in a big haul. They are losing a lot of guys. But also understand Sark is very, very cautious with who he brings into this program at this moment. Like, more so than he was in the first year of his season. And so this is a kid, if it's, I'll just say this. They're going to look at him. They're going to kick the tires. They're going to see what they can see. They're going to do all their research. But why is he leaving Alabama? That defense just had a truly atrocious showing in Nashville. Their leaders lost their mind on the field. And then you see a guy that instantly wants to leave. Well, that's a sign. And I will say this about Sark. He has had no problems with Alabama guys, and for good reason. You want to give those guys a shot. Outside of Isaiah Bond, tell me an Alabama kid that's worked out in Austin, because you can't.
Ooh. And there's one, but Keelan. That's a limited sample size.
Yes, Keelan. That absolutely got to give him that. It's just all the other ones, and they were all for similar reasons, and I think Otis is going in there as well. And so just be careful who you wish for. Just because he's a big, great-looking defensive lineman from an Alabama, a Georgia, and LSU does not mean he's to take. But Texas will be – they'll always kick the tires on these guys, especially defensive linemen coming up in this winter window.
One other thing, at this point, players are going to kick the tires on Texas. And it's just on Texas maybe to see if they want to reciprocate that. David Keith Williams
on Texas to see what that price tag is.
Exactly. Let's get Coach Williams involved. I agree completely, and I'm going to throw this one to him. Let's see if I can find it. From Kenny Joe, where are we at in defensive tackle recruiting? You have a little bit of an update. We'll go into more detail on Inside Texas later, but someone from the SEC footprint is getting a little bit more attention from the Longhorns.
Oh, if you look at recruiting, there's a ton of guys from the Georgia area getting a lot of attention from Texas right now, and for good reason. But I spoke to a 4-star defensive lineman out of Tennessee, man, a big kid who just decommitted from Georgia, right? Now, he's interested in Texas big time. He got an offer back in March, but he's been watching Texas from afar. Mr. Steven Shivers, big 6'4", 350-pound defensive lineman. Man, look, watching this film, the first play they line him up at running back, and he goes 60 to the house, hurdling over people. I was like, all right, I love this kid instantly, man. But he lines up at running back quite often. But big athletic kid. I know Kenny Baker offered him back in March. Like I said, they're still evaluating him, but just another name to add to the board. They're attacking the defensive line heavy in this class. You can never have too many big guys, and just add this kid to the list of guys that are evaluating.
That is a pretty solid program. I think it was the one before Dilfer went to UAB. He was there, I think, and that's a private school within the Nashville area. Gets a lot of quality players. I think they even have another defensive tackle that Texas kind of kick the tires on, to keep using that term earlier in the cycle. So it's one of the talent-rich programs in the city of Nashville, in the state of Tennessee, committed to Georgia, decommitted recently, and has that big human size that we know Steve Sarkisian looks for. Going to go to this one from South KMX. Justin, what's the latest on Michael Terry? And did Texas lose all hope with Madden Ferry-Emo?
Michael Terry is still steady as it goes. Texas is the leader in that recruitment. Nebraska continues to push. I think Oregon's backed off a little. They're still in contact. They still like to get him on campus, but I think they realize this might come down to Texas and Nebraska. He's going to be on campus October 19th for Texas and Georgia. He's been looking forward to that game. I actually caught up with him 4 or 5 days ago just to kind of check in. I thought the coaches might be swinging by there. And he said, man, he's just enjoying his senior year. He's not stressing. His family's enjoying it. And actually, when you're in this part of the recruiting process and you're at that level, that's a blessing. And I think that's because I think they know where they're going to go. And I think they love what they see and what they hear from Texas. And so I love where Texas and Terry are. That hasn't changed. Madden Ferry-Emo, did we lose all hope? Look here, I'm a hope guy. I don't think there's any loss in hope there. I mean, you could have asked that about Riley Pettijohn a few months ago, and look what he's going to be doing next Saturday. And here's the thing. They're going to continue to recruit him, but Notre Dame and USC, I feel like, have stronger foundations with him. When he got to Austin, great visit. I don't know if they could have done a better job with him and his family on that visit. I mean, it really opened his eyes. It made him slow down the process to a point. But since then, he hasn't been back. And since then, the contact's been minimal. He's been back to Notre Dame. I believe he's going to USC, or if he has been last week or he's going to in the next few weeks, he's going to be doing that. I want to also say he's been injured. So I think that's also a bit of a part of what it's been going on with him. But there's no lost hope. Texas loves Ferry-Emo. They would love to get him on campus. They've got really one more linebacker spot. So they're just taking swings at Ferry-Emo, at Nathaniel Awusha-Boateng, and, of course, Riley Pettijohn, who'll be on campus next Saturday.
Everybody.
Kind of to that extent, Charlie, this is one of those recruitments where we have not gotten a ton of info. And part of that is because he's from California, Austin, East Texas, Dallas. It's hard to get out there. At the same time, he just is not someone who talks with a lot of media. From a football program perspective, when you have a kid who may not talk to media, is it normally similar with how he talks to coaches? Is it different? What's that dynamic typically like? Maybe not in Ferry-Emo's sense, but how might things look different behind the scenes compared to what's out in front?
Yeah, a lot of times the kids who don't want to be in the media and want everybody to know anything, they tell the coaching staff, hey, look, this is between us. Whatever I say, I want to keep my recruitment kind of quiet. But if you offer the kid and he has a relationship with you, you have a relationship with him, they're talking off either by text or phone calls, or he's probably making small, visits without anybody even knowing, going to campus and just going around the facilities and being around practice. You would just never know it. Coaching staffs have relationships with these kids if you got an offer from him and he's really interested in your program. It just may not be out in the media because they just don't want to share it, because the kid probably just comes from a family who wants to keep everything private. They're not really caught up in all, I want the hype, I want my name surrounding every story and every team out there. And so you get that a ton. And they'd rather just keep it quiet. They don't want all the, the extra media attention. You see it really, really often, honestly.
Who seems like a good example of that? KJ Lacey. We didn't know until it was about 10 minutes before that KJ Lacey was coming to Texas, and he hadn't done a ton of interviews. That's despite being from the Birmingham area in the middle of Auburn and Alabama recruiting grounds with Ryan Williams on his team, 17, by the way. We didn't get it. Sometimes just kids don't talk to recruiting media, even though we just scroll and scroll and scroll and we type and type and type. Sometimes the kids don't do the same, and that's their prerogative. And I feel like Ferry-Emo is one of the same way. We'll get to a couple more questions. I do want to go through some of the recruiting battles of old that Justin.
I want to say something real quick about Josh Marquette's statement, just to he's got a good little thing right up here. He's saying, should we really kick the tires on a guy who quit? He's talking about Otis. That doesn't seem good for culture. Kicking tires on a player is not taking a player. Kicking tires on a player is doing homework, is doing research. You don't know that story. You see one side of it. You don't know what the other side of it is. And trust me, there are always two sides. So, Josh, just understand, if anything, that's what I meant by Sark is being very particular, especially right now at this time. He's only going to bring in guys that are going to help from that locker room standpoint. If Otis doesn't seem like a good fit in that regard, he won't be in Austin. It's as simple as that. So don't misconstrue kicking tires as you want, desire, or pursue. You're kicking tires. Do we want to purchase this? Do we want to take a test drive? Do we want to get this out on the road to see what it can do? And that's what you want Sark to do. You don't want him to be so rigid into not looking at those guys.
Go through some ones real quick. Leonard Cliff, why did Racine Guillory from Alito decommit? He wants to go through the rest of the recruiting process.
Yeah.
Kids are more than welcome to do that. He's a high-quality running back.
Yeah.
There are a lot of high-quality running backs in Texas. But he didn't want to go through the rest of his recruiting process with kind of, as it is for the prospect, the tether of being committed to a school. Fair to him. Doesn't seem like Texas is going to pursue too heavily.
Texas is not pursuing.
So
Texas has who they on the big board who they want. Javian Osborne, KJ Edwards, Amari Latimer, still talking to Tredarian Ball. Yeah. Racine, good luck, brother.
Is Texas the home team, and will they have recruits in the
No.
game? No,
Oklahoma.
they're the away team.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is able to host recruits. It's like sometimes not to the team's benefit to host people in Dallas unless they're like DFW kids who can go, because you want to sell them the experience of being in Austin, of being in Norman. OU will have players there, I'm sure, and we will track that over on Inside Texas, also with the help of Sooner Scoop. Charlie, here's a good one for you. Do recruits read the news? And this is kind of in the context of Georgia speeding, doing bad citizen things. Story that broke overnight.
Somebody from Georgia get arrested for speeding again?
Yeah.
And some other worse stuff.
Yeah.
Good Lord. They need to call Andre the lawyer.
So, Charlie, do recruits read the news? Surely coaches use that to negative recruit. All's fair in love and recruiting, but do recruits read the news?
Yeah, definitely they read the news. Look, most of these kids, they probably know half the kids on the team. They know what they're doing before they get there. It just kind of get caught and it gets out in the public. But I tell you who it really worries, the parents, especially it's the moms. I don't want my son, I don't want my, they're referring to him as my baby. I don't want my baby going to a program like that where they seem like they're out of control, So yeah, it's and other programs are going to use it. I've seen other programs use way worse things than this, to try to get a kid to flip or get a kid's attention. So yeah, they're definitely going to negative recruit against Georgia like this. Trust me. They don't care what they say or what they use. They just trying to win. Most programs, but yeah.
Right, but we also know if Georgia starts using a bondsman for their NIL, buddy, that's an opportunity that you have got to pounce on. If you can get a bail bondsman to do your NILs, hey, you take care of this problem.
What is it? Chico's bail bonds? Let freedom ring.
Whatever it is, man. Somebody's in Athens, Georgia's like, let's do an NIL, Kirby. Come on. 4 or 5 or more of these kids are going to be in here in a month. Come on. Let's get this going.
Does Andre the lawyer practice law in Georgia? I don't know how the bar works, but might. But we'll go to this from our buddy Dave Williams.
This is a good one.
Think you may have said Javian Hilson's recruitment is beginning to take too many twists and turns. Could you elaborate, Justin? You wrote about him the other day. Curious what your thoughts on him are.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many twists and turns with him to actually evaluate. That's off the field stuff. On the field, he's phenomenal. He's had 2 decommitments to him, and when you see kids decommit, I honestly think if they do it twice, the third is really the charm. It usually is, okay, this is where they're usually signed the third time because, if you're doing it any time past 3, I just don't know if anybody's buying it anymore. But yeah, there's nothing to elaborate on. I don't think there's too many twists or turns. I just think Javian's he wanted to go to Alabama. Nick Saban wanted to retire, so that changed his plans. Wanted to go to Florida State. Florida State decided they did not want to win football games in 2024, so that kind of helped him decide. He'll be in Texas in 2 weeks on October 19th. I think that's going to be – no, it'll be an unofficial. He took his official during June. He'll be there for his unofficial, and I feel fantastic about Texas and Javian Hilson. The top competition right now is Central Florida. So there's no twists and turns. Listen, if he jumps in the class, you got him, Smith-Arogbo, and Lance Jackson. And, buddy, you can call it a day at the edge position with that trio.
How many times did Aaron Hampton commit? Justin, I want to keep
man.
you above ground today. So
Yikes.
No comment.
all right. Let's
I'm gonna play this one safe.
Yeah. Let's get to something that, Justin, you wrote. Whenever you're talking about the Red River Shootout, you're always talking about a lot of players who know each other. We've had Drew Kelson, even Brian Robinson was on this channel this morning talking about these players know each other. And there may not be a better example than, like, look at Kyler Murray, someone who might be the best high school football player in this history of the state of Texas, going to play in Oklahoma. Guys like Charles Omenihu, who hit the home run against Kyler Murray, they know what they're facing. So there is a lot of connections here on the Red River Shootout. And so, Justin, you wrote about this. David Stone, Texas recruited him. Not a ton of traction. Guy was from Oklahoma City.
Right. Didn't he go to IMG Academy for a year and then had to come back or something? You remember that, Charlie?
Yeah, I do. He did.
He was always going to stay in state, and I think Texas knew that.
And then going through more, Deshaun
I actually
McCullough.
saw McCullough. I actually watched this kid. Man, it was like 3 or 4 years ago at 7-on-7. His dad was a coach for the Kansas City Chiefs at the time. I don't know where he's at now.
He's at Notre Dame.
He's at Notre Dame. Okay, that's exactly right. He's at Notre Dame. This was a kid that was playing safety in high school, and he was like 6'4".
Yep.
And we kept asking him, "Are you going to play safety?" "Oh yeah, this is my spot. This is my spot." And his dad would say, "Man, he's going to move down the box. That's going to happen." I was a big fan of McCullough. He's kind of bounced around a little bit. He committed to Ohio State. He signed with Indiana, I believe, and obviously he's in Oklahoma now. And I think he's actually a little dinged up, but he was a very, very intriguing prospect in high school.
Yeah, I think he was a 5-star athlete, but he may not have.
He had some sick skills.
We all know this guy.
Oh,
Charlie,
man.
Billy Bowman.
Girlfriend, got a girlfriend.
You see that I see that a lot, right?
But
He was in love.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're still together.
This is
I
one of
doubt
the better high school athletes that we were able to watch during that class.
Can you imagine him playing star right now? Oh, God.
He's going amazing. Right?
That's what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do.
Charlie, how much did y'all know about Javante Barnes out in the desert?
He got out of there before I had a chance to get to UNLV, but I mean, I know he was a highly recruited kid. That's a tough program that he comes from Desert Pines. Now, like, you come out of there, you kind of rough around the edges. You know what I mean. You didn't really take no mess. But yeah, and Javante Barnes, you come out of that school and you're highly rated, man. You really got to be. You're Mr. Everything. Trust me.
Las Vegas isn't all lights and glamour. There's some different parts to it.
Yeah.
There's some holes in the desert.
Stay off don't go away from the strip. Don't.
Nick Anderson, Texas offered, but always was going to follow his brother, correct?
They didn't. I don't remember them pushing too hard for this kid. Plus
Charlie,
a Katy receiver. I mean, really?
Charlie, he's a pupil of one of the better trainers in Texas, correct?
Yeah. He trained with Margin Hook, so yeah, they might have had something to do with it. I know he's good friends with former receiver coaches now at USC. So, yeah, they probably had that all lined up. Who knows?
Nigel Smith. I think there are some cases here where, like, Oklahoma won head-to-head straight up. This is just one of those cases where Texas offered and it was just kind of fizzled out.
Remember, Texas was in the top 5, top 6, but they were always number 5 or number 6 in that recruitment. I think he liked Texas. He visited a number of times, but they didn't push. There was somebody close to him in his family or in his circle that was very pro-Texas, but it just never materialized.
All right, Justin. Taylor Tatum.
Hey, Tashard Choice fell in love with him the night that they went to go see Jalen Hill play for Longview in a playoff game. And they're like, oh, man, this Taylor Tatum guy, holy crap. They recruited him. They loved him. They brought him in on campus. They took him over to the baseball facilities. Everything was great. And then Choice decided that he had 2 tailbacks he really wanted in the cycle, and they said sayonara. And he had no problem jumping into that Oklahoma boat, and he will be playing some stickball for the Sooners as well. Love some Taylor Tatum.
Yeah.
Kip Lewis, he also
Great kid.
he made that pick six.
Pick six.
correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was the guy that stuffed Texas at the goal line last year in Texas OU. Love Kip Lewis. Better person than he is football player, and he's a pretty dang good football player. Really, really great kid. I like to see him do well. Not this Saturday, but every other Saturday.
Charlie, do you remember this recruitment?
God.
I do, my gosh. Like, I remember the big whole social media, Instagram hoopla around this kid trying to recruit others to come to Texas. Then he flips. I was like, oh, okay. Hey.
That was a wild one because I think it happened and we were all kind of like, this isn't going to last, is it?
Well, wasn't he adopted and his adopted parents were Sooners? And when they found out he committed to Texas, they like lost their mind. It's like, we adopted you, and then you're going to go over to the Red River. Da, da, da. And so what did that recruitment last? Like 6 days?
Yeah.
6 days or something like that.
5 or 6 days. And it was like, oh, Kobe, you better head to. You know what? He was a fun player to evaluate in high school, but I always thought he was a little too big already. So I don't think Texas felt like they missed anything.
JJ
Hester was a dude too. Hester was a ball player.
I don't remember a ton about him. Jaden Hardy, I also don't remember a lot about him.
Jaden, the thing about Jaden is he played for 4 years at Louisville. He started as a freshman on varsity at Louisville. His dad was an all-SEC football player for Tennessee back in the day. Texas really liked him. They recruited him hard for a couple of years, but Oklahoma kind of, at that point, by the end of his senior year, he was so tired of high school football and recruiting, it sort of just became monotonous. Oklahoma was a good spot for Jaden. Good kid. Joe, why don't you touch on Brennan Thompson? You touch on Brennan.
There's one thing that I very much remember about Brennan Thompson, and I don't fault a kid for doing track and football, but I'm also going to be honest about what it does for his development as a football player. Texas listed Brennan, I think, at like 5'10", 160, something like that. He gets to Oklahoma and is listed at 5'8", like 155. And then Seth Luttrell has him being a lead blocker on a screenplay that went, disastrous. So, I mean, one of the fastest guys I've ever seen. I was lucky enough to watch him do the 100 and 200 double for Spearman.
My nephew raced him.
He fits that veer and shoot. But I don't know if they're running the veer and shoot. And he has found himself playing a lot more now that there's been a lot more injuries to the Sooner receiver core. I don't know if we'll see him a ton. Probably a little bit, though.
Hey, sometimes it's okay to just run track.
Yeah, right. I agree.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Danny Okoye, Justin, sometimes
fantastic
in the job,
kid.
You get close to kids that are awesome but aren't going to the school you cover.
Pretty much.
This is one of
That's
them.
Danny. Fantastic kid. You know what was funny throughout that entire recruitment? He kept knocking Oklahoma because his mom went to Oklahoma State. They couldn't talk about Oklahoma positively in that house for over a year. And then when it came down to it, Boomer Sooner. Hey, they got him. Venables got him a good one. I love Danny Okoye, freak athlete. I watched him throw a football 70 yards, just jacking around one time at a homeschool practice. And so I love Danny, and I wish the best for him every Saturday except this Saturday.
We'll go real quick after this one. Y'all know this guy?
Oh, Tom Thumb.
He is one of the few players, I think, in Texas history, maybe one of 2 players to have 6 touchdown passes in a game. And now he's on school 1, 2, 3, 4.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. This might be Sesame Street. That's the way Casey Thompson learned how to count, was how many times he transferred.
What if he plays?
Oh, man.
If he plays.
The commentators will have a good one at that. They probably got a story written. They're ready to talk about that, I'm sure.
Ooh. If he plays, his dad's gonna be so excited he'll jump out of a jumpsuit.
Go through some quick ones. Petaway, Peyton Bowen, and Eli Bowen.
Hey, the Bowen brothers were dudes, man.
They are dudes.
Yeah.
And Texas was in on
Texas.
Eli pretty early. Eli was probably always going to follow Peyton, and Peyton's recruitment was a story in and of itself. And I'm so thankful Texas was not involved in that one, because there were people that were going crazy the last part of that recruitment.
Yeah, didn't Peyton have something similar to Billy Bowen for kind of follow his girlfriend as well?
It was a little Notre Dame, and then there was one other school involved, but then he went back
Oregon.
to Oklahoma.
It was Oregon, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma, and it was a S show to the extreme. And poor Peyton. If you were to ask Peyton, Peyton's like, I don't want to do any of this. Poor Peyton didn't want to do any of that, but it is what it is. Both of them are ball players. Peyton's really good. Eli had some of the best feet I had seen at corner that year.
I'm going to go down real quick and then up. Devon Mitchell, they offered, but I think he reclassified, and that kind of took Texas' interest away.
Yeah.
Jacob Sexton, I'm pretty sure that was a Herman staff offer.
Yeah, that was. Yep. That was. They flirted with him. Yeah.
Good player. I don't think he's anything special, but he's a
that guy right there. The next guy is the guy. Not that. No, not the demon.
Hey, both these guys are probably going to be seeing a lot of snaps for the Sooners on Saturday.
Jaden Jackson is a future all-conference player.
Yeah, he is one of the first.
That's a loss. Texas really wanted that kid.
And Jaden Jackson starting as a true freshman there at Oklahoma. Dominic Williams, a loss. It was. Oklahoma won that recruitment. But I don't think Texas is feeling like the ill effect of it at this point.
Some losses feel like wins, Joe. Some losses feel like wins.
That might be the perfect way to put it as we go through recruiting. Got a lot of good intel. Thank you for joining. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 10,000 subscribers. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com, use the promo code IT1. Get yourself 2 months of access for just $1. Everybody, thank you for joining. Appreciate y'all for watching here on a Tuesday afternoon. Charlie, Justin, appreciate y'all as always. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.